Helen Cook now joins me in the studio. Helen, great to see you again. Plenty has happened since then. First up, how's Georgina going?
She's great. She's almost 3 years old and I have a second child now as well. He's almost one. Yeah.
Congratulations, fantastic. Now, what a day today, an announcement like this. What do you make of it? We've known it's been coming, but here it is on the table, 7 fixed nuclear power stations in this country proposed by the Coalition. Do you see it as feasible and the right debate to have?
I do see it as feasible, and I think it's a debate that's been long coming, but one that we must have. I saw today a policy that outlines what I believe to be a credible pathway to net zero by 2050 that includes an important role for a coal to nuclear transition. And I think also, Chris, it identified and recognises the contribution that our coal communities have been making to our reliable electricity grid for decades now. And it realised that, or it told us that there is a future path for them to transition from coal to nuclear.
Now, you've been involved in developing legal and regulatory frameworks for nuclear projects around the world. If the Coalition to form government, it would be effectively 2025. They're saying they could deliver a reactor, the first one by 2035, just 1 decade. Is that feasible?
I think it's ambitious, but I do think it's feasible. And I think when we look at why it's feasible, we need to appreciate that we have been a nuclear nation for 70 years, and we have been regulating our nuclear assets for that long. We have in place today an agency that covers nuclear security and nuclear safeguards. We have in place today an established nuclear regulatory authority that oversees nuclear safety. And these regulatory bodies have international reputations and highly credible ones. And if we were to move down a nuclear power plant path, yes, we would need to adapt these frameworks to make sure that they are fit for purpose for nuclear power. But we would be adapting and building on what we have.
So instead of starting from scratch, we would take ANSTO that runs Lucas Heights, the scientific and medical reactor, and just expand its remit and authority, and obviously have to bring in more expertise.
So PANSA, as the nuclear regulator of ANSTO's activities, yes, exactly. We would take what it has today, its human resources, the laws, the regulations, and we would build upon that, adapt it for nuclear power.
Now, the other point, of course, is that there are currently legislative bans. There's a federal ban. Now, presumably you win government as a federal government with this proposition. You could overturn that ban. You might have to struggle in the Senate, but let's say that they get rid of that ban. What about state governments holding out? How much of a problem is that? Queensland, New South Wales and Victoria?
I think it's a political problem that needs to be solved, and there'll be probably political solutions to it.
Well, we've got Labor governments in all 3 states at the moment. The LNP in Queensland say they oppose it. They might change their mind after the election. But wouldn't there be a certain amount of political impetus? Is the federal government one power with this policy? Surely the states would have to look at doing deals with it.
I think that's what I heard Peter Dutton say this morning, that there would be, I think he said there'd be money on the table. There would be hopefully communities that have the ability to negotiate highly powerful incentives and benefits packages for those communities that will bring jobs to the region, bring new industries to the region. And as I said at the start, recognise the contribution that these communities have made to the electricity grid as we have it today, and that we need to see a credible pathway for them, for their future as well.
Now, you're not an economist, but in your work, you must have had to deal with the commercial realities, the financial viability of the projects you've been involved in. Does it stack up for Australia compared to the renewables plus storage model?
Look, when I talk about anything to do with the commercial realities, I think the most important thing is to assess all of the technology options on their merits. And, you know, this is across the board, whether they're talking about risk or safety or economics. We need to make sure that we're actually comparing apples to apples. And I don't think that we have seen a fair assessment of an apples to apples comparison yet. Certainly the Gen Cost report doesn't do that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously because nuclear lasts 80 years or more.
Exactly.
So the investment is paid back over a much longer period of time. That's the debate we're all going to get into in the coming months. You're glad it's underway properly?
I am, Chris. Bring it on.
Great stuff. Thanks for joining us, Helen. I appreciate it. Helen Cook there, a nuclear law expert who's walked all around the world and will be an important part of this debate, no doubt, going forward.